What's up, weirdos? It's Thursday again. I'm Chris, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts.
I'm Mackenzie.
And I'm Sarah.
And this podcast is for weirdos. Today, we're going to talk about 4 different Texas sightings of some weirdness.
Okay.
What, if any, flying cryptids or creatures of whatever origin other than fucking birds have y'all heard about in Texas?
I mean, there's a lot of bats in Austin.
I'm going to throw the book at you.
Don't throw my own book at me. That would be rude. I mean, I have heard of the Houston Batman.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I know about it is reading the paragraph that's in Mothman Prophecies as I skimmed through the pages upon pages of other winged thing sightings when I read that. But other than that, I don't know really anything.
Okay.
I also know very little about Texas winged cryptids.
Texas Wingdings.
Texas wingdings. And I would say like Houston Batman I know the name of, and that's truly about all I know about him.
Yeah.
And besides that, I know more about dog-like cryptids in the Texas area than I do about bird winged cryptids.
Right.
Okay.
I don't really think about Texas when I think about flying things.
Yeah, I think of other places.
Right.
So please tell us about wingy dingies.
Yeah. Okay. So very briefly, I'm going to touch on a couple. Here are things kind of from just North America that exist in folklore. Could be related. Might not be.
Cool.
So large birds have been in folklore across North America forever. They're like, we have thunderbirds, giant supernatural birds, and they're in a lot of like Native American stories and traditions, and including Ojibwa and Algonquin cultures. And then I also have La Lechuza also written on here, that is a Mexican folk legend described as a shape-shifting woman who converts into a giant owl. We are going to get into our sightings of these different
Wingy things.
winged beasties, if you will. So there's 4 big ones, and then there's one that I found very little on, but is much more recent. So there is a 5th one, but it's like, Okay, so the first one we're going to start with is June 18th, 1953. 3 Houstonians.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Houston Batman story.
Okay.
3 Houstonians, Hilda Walker, Judy Myers, and Howard Phillips. They were all neighbors. Hilda is a housewife. She was sitting on her porch on East 3rd Street. Judy Myers was a neighbor who was a little 14-year-old girl, and Howard Phillips, another neighbor, age 33. Noted here, it's from Texas Public Radio, did a little story on it.
Mm-hmm.
A peaceful though very humid night, which is
Houston.
expected for Houston.
What month?
June.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Very humid.
June 18th, 1953.
Right.
Walker, so the gentleman, described the sighting as 25 feet away. I saw a huge shadow across the lawn. I thought at first it was the magnified reflection of a big moth caught in a nearby streetlight. Then the shadow seemed to bounce upward into a pecan tree. We all looked up, and that's when we saw it. And so they go on to describe this being as a man-like form that stood about 6.5 feet tall with bat wings on its back. There was a strange yellow glow from behind it in the tree.
Weird.
Very weird. He appeared to be dressed in like tight-fitting black clothes, potentially made of like a leather material. It could have also been gray or black. It was in a tree.
Right.
and they watched it sit there in the tree for about 30 seconds, but they were all stunned in a similar way to you describing people interacting with Mothman, where they are stunned, they are frozen almost in fear,
Right.
like a hypnotic trance almost. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And so for about 30 seconds, they just kind of watched him kind of like sway back and forth in the tree before the light behind him began to fade, and he disappeared.
It's very odd that he's also accompanied by a light.
Yes. And so as soon as he disappeared, Judy, the 14-year-old, screamed.
Valid.
Almost like trance had ended,
Right.
and things were able to resume.
Right, which is kind of like the UFO one that I talked about, where the Christensen family, once the UFO like vanished over their heads, the two women like had an emotional breakdown. Like they were freed from the trance and started crying.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
And so Hilda Walker, whose porch all the three of them were standing on, said that immediately after, we heard a loud swoosh over the housetops across the street. It was like the white flash of a torpedo-shaped object. I've heard so much about flying saucer stories. I thought all of those people telling the stories were crazy, but now I don't know what to believe. I may be nuts, but I saw it. Whatever it was, I sat there stupefied. I was amazed.
So there's also a fucking UFO sighting with this one?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm losing it. I'm
It's
losing it. I
fascinating.
am losing it over here. On the other side of the room. I am. Okay. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Judy Meyer. She said, I saw it, and nobody can say I didn't, which is great. She's 14. Howard Phillips, his description of the
event, the entity
was, we looked across the street and saw a flash of light rise from another tree and take off like a jet.
Oh, like a jet. So that's the same like fixed wing phenomena almost.
Yeah.
That
a straight up into the air.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Which is weird.
That is really weird. And this is in the 50s, so this is like still peak UFO craze.
53. This is before Mothman.
It is before Mothman.
This is
but like Mothman was kind of the tail end of like that era of the UFO craze, because a lot of people like it comes and goes in waves, right?
Right.
But 53?
53.
That's like the year after Flatwoods. That's the era for
Yeah.
UFOs. I love that they're seeing a UFO and that they're like, I thought UFO people were crazy, and then I saw it, and Jesus Christ.
Yep. There have been reports after this of the Houston Batman, but most of them have not made it to kind of more public platforms.
Right.
They have been reported to our good buddy that we briefly talked about in the last episode, Ken Gerhardt.
I actually didn't mention his name in the episode. We talked about it after we finished
Oh,
recording.
did we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because he was the one, I will say, I don't want to go through the effort of cutting this and putting it into the Mothman episode, but I will say it. He's the one who was talking about the like Assyrian, like the Pazuzu story and like that kind of stuff. He's the one who posited like those kinds of theories in that episode of the thing.
You know,
He's a cool dude.
Ken's like bread and butter is winged
Flying
things.
shit.
Flying shit. If
I'm
it's
gonna look up
if it's
Ken
got-
Gerhardt's email, see if he wants to be on the podcast.
I think I want to hear whatever he has to say. A number of employees from Houston's Bel Air Theater have claimed to see a helmeted man like hang out on top of the theater and around the theater.
Which theater is this?
Bel Air.
Okay.
And so
Helmeted. Like
and
but what kind of helmet?
I don't know.
Like a space helmet or like a bike helmet? A football helmet?
Unspecified. But a lot of those sightings around Bel Air were in the 1990s. And so that's 40 years after the original sighting of
That's crazy.
the Houston
Houston Batman.
So, I mean, anytime you're in Houston, just kind of... okay. And so that's what we have. So that's it for the Houston Batman.
Batman.
That's that one. The next one are the Texas Big Birds.
Like the Muppet?
No, not
Oh.
quite. One of the sources that I looked at did mention it was like the Texas Big Birds, but these birds do not have an address on Sesame Street.
God
That's
damn
so
it.
sad.
Yeah, and I was
Can
like,
you
that's
tell me
I was like, that's
how
a
to
really
get-
silly. I love that.
To Sesame Street.
Cute. But so there are 3 sightings. So we have 3 different sightings of big birds. In
Big
Texas.
birds.
That is just what I have heard these sightings be called. So they were all in January of 1976. So the first one is on January 1st. Tracy Lawson and Jackie Davies were playing outside when they saw the creature. It was over 5 feet tall. It had red glowing eyes.
So it's Mothman.
A bald head, a gorilla-like face, and a long beak.
Oh.
Oh, long beak
Gorilla-like face
with a long
With
beak.
and a long beak.
Blech. I
Yeah.
hate that.
Which is a little odd.
So it's Bigfoot Mothman
It's Bigfoot Mothman.
With a beak.
with a beak. Bigfoot Birdman, glowing red eyes.
Yep.
That's the scariest thing you could have said to me.
So the following day, so on January 2nd, they actually found 3-toed footprints in the yard.
They found. I'm sorry. What did you say?
3-toed footprints.
I'm sorry. One more time.
3-toed.
God, I hate it.
3-toed footprints. Wow, crazy.
Crazy. Kind of nuts.
Crazy. Wow, insane. Hellier.
God, I hate these synchronicities. Ugh.
3-toed footprints.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Three-
That's
Toed
bananagrams.
And their dog started acting weird and didn't want to go outside anymore.
Right. Dogs.
Yep. The dog is fine.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Nothing happens to the dog.
No content warning about this dog here.
Yeah, this dog is fine.
Only content warnings about dogs in my episode.
Yeah, that dog just was scared.
Just scared.
Did not want to go outside. Was done.
Reasonable.
Being outside. Didn't want to go outside anymore.
Reasonable.
January 7th. Policeman.
That's my cousin's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
What year?
policeman- Still 1976.
Okay, yeah. Cousin was not alive yet.
Policeman Arturo Padilla saw a huge bird in the headlights of his cruiser. Minutes later, fellow officer Homer Galvan sighted a large black silhouette gliding through the air. And I will point out, it says gliding.
Right.
Not flapping.
Not flapping, not
flying,
flying.
Back to the freaking
Gliding.
fixed wings.
Gliding.
Ugh.
The wings
Yeah.
are fixed.
The wings are fixed. They're not flapping. No flap those wings.
I hate it.
And so another person named Alverico Guajardo spotted a creature, assuming that this is the same creature,
Right.
and described it as looking like a bat.
Great.
And so that is the second day of sightings of the big birds.
The big birds.
The third day is
hate that big
January
bird.
14th
January 14th.
of 1976.
We are 14 days into 1976, and this bird is all over the place.
All over the place.
in Houston. Are we still in Houston? Or are we
we're
just
still
in Texas?
I think this, if I remember right,
San Antonio?
I failed and did not write down exactly where this was. I think it was outside of Lubbock.
Okay.
A lot of these guys were in the middle of nowhere.
Which is even creepier.
As they should be.
Yeah. January 14th, 1976. Armando Grimaldo.
Great
Ooh.
name.
Heard a sound like a bat's wings flapping. And then he was grabbed by a set of large talons that
Nope.
ripped his shirt.
Don't touch me.
It was a bird-like creature with red eyes, a monkey face, but no beak.
That might be worse than the beak.
face, but no beak.
Yeah.
Monkey face, no beak.
Ugh. With
Monkey
talons.
face, no beak.
Ugh.
So really, truly, just winged Bigfoot.
Winged Bigfoot. So that's the big birds. Those are the big bird sightings.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So we've got Houston Batman, the Texas Big Birds,
Mm-hmm.
which I just hate.
God, I hate those. I hate the description of them. Oh, they give me all of the heebies and all of the jeebies.
Yeah, they're real weird. Like all of these stories are odd.
The Houston Batman, I'm like, it's okay. The continued phenomena of the fixed wings is really bothering me. I don't know what about that.
And the fact that the Houston Batman was still like ufological in nature.
Yeah, all of it. Just I love and hate these like.
I love that Chris
synchronicities.
is like, here's a part 2 to Mothman.
Yeah, this is Mothman Part 2.
Which is great.
This is Mothman, but more local to us.
Mothman, the continuation.
And so the next one is February 1976. So the next month.
Yeah.
But this is San Antonio. Outside of San Antonio, there were 2 teachers that were driving in a car. They were going somewhere.
Right.
Out in the middle of nowhere, basically, but still outside of San Antonio.
Right. Out in the county.
Out in the county. They were in separate vehicles, but they were going to the same place.
Okay.
They were both teachers for San Antonio's South Side School District.
Mm-hmm.
They saw a pair of some large flying birds or something. One of the teachers commented later that it reminded her of a pteranodon.
Okay.
And at the time, in 1976, a reporter in San Antonio reached out to the director of the San Antonio Zoo for comment.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the quote was very funny. So I'm
Hit me
gonna
with
read
it.
to you.
Hit me with it.
There's nothing in today's Texas that would be that. I know of nothing that looks like that, but I sure would like 2 of them for the zoo.
I don't know what it is, but if you catch one, I want it for the zoo.
I thought it was so funny.
That's so funny. I don't know what that is, but the zoo could use it.
The zoo could use it.
We're poor.
I do love the San Antonio Zoo.
It's a good zoo.
It's a good zoo.
It's a really good zoo.
The school district
Right.
told the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
not
Don't talk
to-
about it.
Don't talk about it. Don't tell the media. Don't talk about it.
Obviously, they did. Otherwise, we wouldn't know about it.
Yeah, there were other sightings of these pteranodons near Harlingen, Texas. Also, same year as we have been talking about, 1976. Alvaro Guajardo, who we already talked about,
Right.
he's the one who described it as looking like a bat.
He was one of the big bird sightings.
He's one of the big bird sightings. He described hearing something slam into the side of his mobile home, and when he ventured outside to investigate, he was met face to face with a bird-like creature standing 4 feet tall with eyes the size of silver dollars.
Pretty big.
Pretty big. Big old...
4 feet tall.
4 feet tall. So this is small.
Like a
This is smaller compared to
that's
all
like
of the
a,
other
but it's
descriptions.
like a giant-eyed toddler, which is just unsettling.
But that's also
Yeah.
a very big bird. That's still a big bird.
A very big bird, but not as big as the 6.5
Right,
foot
it's not
tall,
man-sized.
7 foot tall.
Not man-sized.
Right. So it's really interesting. And so one thing that I am going to include is a quote from Ken Gerhard.
Ken Gerhard.
What a legend. So Ken says there's a notable lack of physical evidence. So, for example, if there were a population of giant birds, we'd expect that someone might have found a giant nest, eggshells, eggs, feathers, or a giant pile of bird crap on someone's car. And so
Ken is an icon.
Ken is an absolute icon, and it seems that even though he is a winged
A wingy boy enthusiast.
a wingy boy enthusiast, he does not think that maybe these are physical
entities.
Right. So I would be so curious to learn more about what he thinks.
So I do want to say really quick, I want
Yeah.
to interject. So there's another cryptozoologist, Nick Redfern. Don't know if you talk about him at all.
No,
He's another
but
great one.
I found a book that he wrote, and I was like, I want to read that. But I
Right.
don't
So
have it.
Nick Redfern and Ken Gerhard are both frequenters of the Discovery Plus TV shows that I watch. So they're in Monster Quest, they're in Search of Monsters, they're in those shows. Both of them are in the In Search of Monsters episode talking about Mothman. And both of them, who are cryptozoologists, are like, I think Mothman's an interdimensional being. Like, neither
love
one of
that.
those men who are
Professional
when their name
cryptozoologist.
pops up,
They're-
it says Nick Redfern, cryptozoologist.
They're flesh and
it says
blood.
Ken Gerhard, cryptozoologist.
Yeah.
Both of them are like, I think Mothman's an interdimensional being who steps through window areas and comes here sometimes.
Sick.
And I'm like, I love both of these men.
And so that's what I have on the February 1976 Pteranodons.
Great. So we have Houston Batman. We
Houston
have
Batman.
the big Texas Big Birds.
Yep.
And we have the February of 1976 Pteranodons.
Yes.
Wonderful. Just keeping track.
This one is, I think, very interesting. It is 1986. We don't have a month.
Like when in
Yeah.
that year? Okay.
But we're like a
Because-
decade later.
A decade later, we do not have quotes from the eyewitness.
Right.
We have a retelling of his story from his daughter.
Okay.
That's why, like, we don't have a month. We don't know exactly when in 1986 this happened.
Right. We just have his daughter telling us his tale.
Yes.
Okay.
Frank Shaw was an archivist at NASA.
Oh my God.
A dream.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I would just, man.
An
that'd be
archivist at NASA?
An
I would
archivist
love
at
it.
NASA. And
Imagine what's in their archives that they don't tell anybody about.
All the UFOs.
Just wait.
We're going to find out.
we're going to find out. He was leaving work one day,
Mm-hmm.
and he was walking out to the parking lot to get in his car.
With his little briefcase.
With his little briefcase.
Because
You know.
everybody that works for NASA carries a little briefcase.
Well, he's an archivist. He has to have a briefcase.
Yeah.
In my vision, he has a briefcase.
He saw perched on top of a nearby building
Mm-hmm.
what appeared to be a very large man dressed in all black with wings.
So Houston Batman's back.
hate that.
Because I knew about this one. The NASA Batman is a different one.
It's different. I thought they were the same.
No.
They're different.
They're different.
This one has been called the NASA Gargoyle,
Ugh.
not
I love
the
that.
Batman.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
Also, technically, actually, unless he was
actually.
throwing up water, he's not a gargoyle. He's a grotesque.
Well, he's a NASA grotesque then.
Thanks.
But they
You menace.
call him a gargoyle.
Well, they're wrong.
I know they're wrong.
Unless he's out here going, and there's water coming out of him. He's not a gargoyle. Look, sometimes I can't leave things unsaid, and sometimes those things are the difference between gargoyle and grotesque.
So the following recounting of the story comes from Redfern's book. That is an interview with Frank Shaw's daughter,
the daughter.
Desiree.
I love that name. Sorry,
Isn't it a nice
Desiree's a
name?
great name.
While walking to his car that night, he had seen, to his complete and utter horror, perched on a nearby building, a large man-like figure that was utterly black in color and that seemed to have a large cape draped across its shoulders and back, with two huge wing-like appendages sticking out of the cape. Looking more bat-like than bird-like, the wings made a cracking noise as they slowly flapped in the strong howling wind.
No, that's horrible.
Not
I
fixed.
remember-
Slow flap.
Remember when we were talking about how much we hated that the wings weren't flapping? I would like them to go back to not flapping. I would like non-flapping wings, please.
I'm disgusted.
Not-
Continue.
The creature had clearly realized it had been seen. Not only that, Shaw gained the very distinct impression that the beast was actually relishing that it had been noticed,
Oh, absolutely not.
and was even
Ick.
seemingly deriving pleasure from the fact that it had struck terror into the heart of Shaw.
Oh, I don't like it at all.
Ick.
Yeah, real creepy. After this encounter, Frank did not tell his family because he was like,
That was scary.
really scary.
That was really scary.
But eventually he did try to talk to other NASA employees. And be like, I saw something weird the other day, you know, like that was kind of, have you seen anything like this? And enough people were like, yeah, that's fine. We've seen that before.
What?
That
Chris, I need to remind this. You live there.
I live
Don't
walking
triang- don't
distance from
triangulate
here.
too
You
much.
live NASA. You live in NASA.
I live in NASA.
You live in NASA. I'm not going to tell you Chris's address, but Chris lives in NASA.
I live in NASA.
You live there.
I live there.
Anyway, sorry. So many people at NASA saw it that they were like, yeah, that's a thing. That's normal.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hate
And
it.
they acted unafraid, and so he was like, oh, okay, well, this is fine. And then continued to like not say things about it. In a couple different sources about this, I read, without any really good evidence of like, did this actually happen, or is somebody making this up and
Right.
adding this to the story? There were discussions of Men in Black approaching Frank after the sighting to be like,
Don't tell anybody.
don't tell anybody.
I
Stop it.
hate this.
That doesn't surprise me.
Ah!
Right.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
But yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if somebody added that, but it also would not surprise me if that were true.
Right. But NASA has been asked
About
this.
the gargoyle.
About the gargoyle.
The grotesque.
And has denied any sort of
Well, that's what they do.
knowledge of. Yeah.
That's what they do.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. They work for the government. They have to.
But allegedly, employees that worked with Frank had also seen it and were unconcerned about it.
Nonplussed.
Nonplussed. They were like, it's just that thing.
That's that guy.
It's that weird guy
That's
that hangs out on the
Steve.
roof. And so our last sightings of whatever this might be,
Winged Texas beasties.
winged Texas species, is 2013.
Oh my God. That's when I graduated from high school
Oh my God.
and started college, depending on when in the year it is.
Northeast San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
There was a man who reported seeing something fly over his house on Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
Christmas Day.
That's crazy.
And 2 months before, 2 Bexar County sheriff deputies came to him with a police report where residents described a very dark, very large, and alive flying thing in the air over the area.
No, thank you.
And it is allegedly
That's
somewhere around the
horrible.
Chestnut Bluff Drive
Area.
area.
I
In the
hate it.
beach trail community. That there was some
11 years ago.
some large flying very dark thing that was alive, not like a
Plane.
A
like
plane.
yeah. Well, no, if it was a
Yeah.
plane, it would have lights on it.
right.
Keep your eyes on the skies, listeners.
Yeah. Watch out for
Or your trees.
odd
Or I guess the top of a building.
watch out for odd guys with wings.
Eyes peeled for the winged guys.
Okay. But so we talked about Ken Gerard. What do y'all think? What do you think these are all the same thing? Do you think
No,
they're different things?
I think they're different things because, man, I hate them. Houston Batman, I think, is the most similar to Mothman
Uh-huh.
as far as physical characteristics, the fixed wings, the ufological sighting. I think those are very similar beings.
Yeah.
Maybe not the same, but similar enough that I could foresee them being in the same, like, flap genus.
Okay.
The Texas big birds. I don't like the description of them at all. But the fact that one of them was described with a long beak and the other one was distinctly like no beaked.
Uh-huh.
Maybe same family. Maybe one had just a weird.
Maybe one lost its beak in the war.
Maybe one of them just has a very, very big nose.
And
Yeah.
and by the way, the war is the war that the bird creatures fight with the big feet every
Yes.
every 100 years
Yeah.
Yeah.
that we all know about.
And then the NASA Batman just gives me the heebies and the jeebies.
Yeah.
I don't like the slow flap. That makes me feel very not Mothman.
And it creaks.
And
It creaks and cracks.
I don't dislike the grotesque theory. I think that's an interesting.
Right, describing it like a gargoyle or a grotesque. Like
Yeah.
that like
Well, because
Stony guy.
he's sitting there up there on the roof.
right where
Yeah.
those go.
Well, that's where
So
they
like,
go.
I just think that's interesting, especially because Houston especially this part of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right,
don't
where-
where we are,
where NASA is.
where NASA
Where
is.
NASA is.
We don't have a lot of those, right? We don't have a lot of churches with
No.
with grotesques or gargoyles on them.
It's
Like,
all
it's
very
all
new.
It's different. It's different.
And NASA is
effigy
very
stuff.
much like just brutalist
Yeah, I was like,
architecture.
Yeah.
it's incredibly brutalist.
It's just
So,
boxes.
it's just
They're not gonna
boxes.
randomly have a gargoyle.
Right.
And then the,
I mean, they might, I
the
don't
San
know.
Antonio bird thing. I think there's enough differences in the way. There's not a through line like in all the Mothman contactees. There's a through line of how they look, of how it acts. You know, and there's not that same through line here. So interesting.
Mackenzie's uncomfortable.
I'm so uncomfortable by these things. And like Mothman doesn't make me the same level of uncomfortable. Not that he doesn't make me uncomfortable.
Is it because he's in West Virginia?
I think so. And I think the thought of them being so
He's not
like,
here.
My brother lives in San Antonio.
And we're in Houston.
And we're in Houston. Like we are very close to, we're not obviously in Lubbock. Texas Tech can deal with those. I'm good. Thank you so much. But like the other large bird creature cryptid sightings are in places that we easily access.
Right.
And two of them are not far from us at all as far as like our bubble.
I should find. Can you text me what street the Houston Batman was on?
So the place doesn't exist anymore.
Does the street?
It is now part of I-10.
Oh.
Because I'm gonna be in downtown tomorrow. So I was like,
You know, it is now I-10.
damn it.
All right, what do you think, Sarah?
So I disagree with Mackenzie. I
Okay.
think they very much could be versions of the same thing, because again, there's a whole fucking chapter in Mothman Prophecies about all these different bird like man thing sightings, and I want to think of it like I think of Bigfoot and the Yeti and the Sasquatch and the skunk ape and the Boggy Creek monster and like all of the ape men I think of as different versions of the same entity. And maybe just for ease of categorizing them in my brain,
Yeah.
these all fall into the same category that Mothman falls into, of like weird winged thing
Yeah.
that people are seeing that isn't just a cryptid. Because in other cryptid stories like Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster or, you know, Chupacabra or any of these other cryptid stories, people don't have that like frozen in fear reaction when they see them. Most of the time people see Bigfoot and they're like, oh my God, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Oh my God, I can't find my phone. Can't find my camera. Can't get a picture of Bigfoot. Trying to get a picture of Bigfoot. Like, or they chase Bigfoot or they run away from Bigfoot or whatever. Like there's not there that frozen in fear doesn't exist. And that seems to kind of be a through line even through these stories of like, at least in the Houston Batman, they were like, we couldn't move.
Yeah.
We just had to sit there and watch him. And the weird Men in Black potential aspect of the NASA thing, and the fact that some of them were described as not pterodactyls,
Pterodons.
Yeah, pteranodons.
Pteranodons. I was
But
close.
one of the Mothman sightings, the pilot, or before Mothman, the pilot described it as looking like a pterodactyl.
Yeah.
And like those kinds of things is like, maybe these are all like a similar critter
Yeah.
or entity, right? Because we don't think that Mothman is a critter.
Yeah.
We think that Mothman is something else.
Right. And just like Ken Gerhard, there would be piles of like huge piles of shit.
It's like we talked
everywhere.
about dragons. What are they eating?
What are they eating?
Where are they living?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do think that they could all be, I don't think they're all the exact same entity,
Yeah.
but I do think they could be aspects of the same phenomenon.
Yeah.
Is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think that like the Mothman that was in West Virginia is
In
the
Texas.
Texas Batman, but like maybe they're cousins.
Aw. They get together for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, they get together. But yeah, all sorts of just odd winged things. So if you're in Texas,
Keep your eyes on the
keep your eyes in the sky. But I think that's all I have for y'all today. Let us know on social media what you think. Do you believe in any of these? Have you seen anything strange in Texas? Let us know. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is for weirdos.
Are you a weirdo?
Thursdays are for the phenomena.